So, welcome to episode 6 of the Friendship Pod. Your two hosts, Walter, aka Gentle Giant, and my second half,
Of course, the Octave Doctor, also known as Sai. I forgot my name for a second.
happened to me a few episodes back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
So we're back with another episode
never-
of the Friendship.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're back like we never left.
Like we never left. And make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things. This episode, we're going to be talking about Magick with a K.
Okay.
I mean, what did you think it was? Wait, what happened?
I thought we were talking about alchemy.
Yeah, I said like that area, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The general direction.
Yeah. I feel like
Okay.
magic is more inclusive. Alchemy is more specific. I don't know. What's the difference? Like, what's the difference to you?
Well, the difference to me is alchemy is more like a base form of chemistry, like trying to unlock like nature's ingredients to reach certain things, or and magic with a K is more like incantations. Well, alchemy also has incantations, so I don't know, like it's more like spells, incantations, and
Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's define these two terms.
yeah, let's start there. So let's start there. So I'll tell you the dictionary definition, I guess.
Sure.
And then or do you want to start with your definitions?
I heard like a definition of magic being using your will to change something about the universe by means that are not understood by modern science.
Okay.
That's the definition of magic.
So the definition of magic, according to Oxford, is an archaic spelling of magic with a C. And archaic means like classical or old way of spelling. Yeah. So magic with a C in Oxford is the power of apparently influencing events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Or mysterious tricks such as making things disappear or reappear performed as entertainment, but this is really sleight of hand more than magic.
Yeah, that's more like David Blaine type magic.
Yeah. But the first one was more like the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then a quality of being beautiful and delightful in a way that seems remote from daily life.
That is magical. Yeah.
Yeah, like the magic of theater or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then exceptional skill or talent. He's been working his magic
Okay.
on like like when people play like basketball and stuff, he's been working his magic since
Magic
then,
Mike.
and then so the rest is magic just as adjective and stuff, so that was just a noun term. And then do you want to do alchemy?
Yeah, I mean I watched like a video on alchemy. What I understood from it is that it's like this thing where you try to take whatever substance, transform it back into its primal form, and then transform it again into gold or whatever, the Philosopher's Stone, something like that. That's what I understand.
Yeah, so it depends what your journey is. So alchemy, I know like in the past, alchemy has been used to transform ordinary metals into gold. That was one of their like goals, of the alchemist goals, like taking lead and then turning it into gold, for example. Or another way, like you said, the Philosopher's Stones, like refining something out of it. But another thing is that it was a precursor to chemistry. So the dictionary definition is the medieval forerunner of chemistry, concerned with the transmutation of matter, in particular with attempts to convert base materials into gold or find a universal elixir. Like
universal elixir.
Yeah.
Like what do they want from that universal elixir? To live long? and prosper.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a universal elixir would be like a cure for all. Maybe like any disease that you have, or the elixir of life for more life, like you already mentioned. Yeah, I guess there's a few.
This is why I said like magic is more encompassing, because magic is like all the ways that you can perhaps attain something like that, that kind of goal, whether it's through sacrifice or like mantras or chants, or I mean there's many techniques, including making like drinks and potions and whatever, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then from what I understand, like alchemy comes out of this like Aristotelian idea that everything is like matter. The physical world is matter. And it's basically like different combinations of the four elements. So if everything is this matter, then anything you take, like let's say lead, can be taken back to its original matter, the prime materia or whatever it's called. And then that prime materia, once you get it, you can transform it into gold or whatever it is, like because everything is made up of matter, this whatever this thing is, this prime matter, anything can be transformed from this to that and that to this.
Yeah, because it's then the base, like how the Greeks believed like the atom was the smallest thing you could break down into, and then once you had this, maybe you could form it into other thing. But it's crazy. I was just looking at the etymology for the word elixir, and it comes from Arabic, el-iksir, from Greek xerion, powder for drying wounds. So elixir is actually an Arabic word that made it into. That's crazy. Made it into Greek.
And
and alchemy is actually also an Arabic word because of, I don't know what it means, but I know most of those words with al in front of it are.
Well, alchemia.
Yeah.
Is literally the Arabic word for chemistry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, so I guess says late Middle English via Old French and medieval Latin from Arabic alchemia. From the chemia, from Greek chemia, art of transmuting metals.
Nice.
Ah.
Yeah. Like that's the thing, like the ancients they had a different way of viewing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what they wanted is very different from what we want, I think. Or at least how they thought of how they could get the things they wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But of course, they still had that tendency that we today also have, which is this idea that we can somehow force nature to do what we want it to do.
Yeah.
So we're in a way, we're not that different. We're still trying to find this cure. Like we're doing all this chemistry. Like, actually, you just made me think of something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we make fun of them for doing all these things, but really we're doing the same thing. We're still trying to figure out, like, what. This is the thing that's missing from modern science, in my opinion, my humble opinion. It's like, oh, well, life is meaningless and life is valueless and life is, all these nice things. But then it's like Whitehead, one of my favorite philosophers, says, you have these scientists who are spending their whole life trying to prove that nothing is important. But then the question is, why are you spending your time doing that? Obviously, it's important to you.
Yeah.
So, and this is the point I'm trying to get to, which is that if you say like, okay, there's no value to doing all these things, but then why are we finding cures for cancer? Why are we trying to find a cure for cancer? Like there's a value in it. We're trying to do something of value. We're trying to help people, you know. And so we're in a way we're kind of like denying the fact that value and purpose exists, when in reality that's exactly what we're doing. Like we're creating medicine and we're studying all kinds of weird stuff just so that we can, you know, help people. Or also some people do it so they can destroy people.
Yeah, of course.
Like they have purposes, you know. And we tend to think of these people, these alchemists and, you know, the magicians and all that, oh, they were just primitive, you know. But they were just humans just like us. They had values, they had purposes, and they were trying to attain those purposes, and they did it in their own way.
Exactly, they're trying to achieve a goal.
Yeah,
it's just their way. So instead of like saying, "Oh, I'm gonna figure this out in this way," like they had we today are very materialistic. We only look on the materialistic side of things. So we say, okay, like you said, we want to cure cancer, so let's just research it, and then we have the scientific method. We'll put it through. We'll get our results and iterate until we have a result. Maybe play around with the with the results so that the drug gets approved and we make a bunch of money. But that's beside the point.
Yeah,
that's beside the point. It's I guess it's they had the spiritual layer to it. So if somebody was looking for a cure, they'll say, okay, we can find a cure, but there's also a spiritual part of it. Like God will cure us in that sense. Like it's not just the medicine. The medicine plays a part, but the main person curing, or the main thing curing us is actually God in that sense. Or for some magicians, spiritual things or whatever it was in that sense, right? And I guess that layer is missed. And you know what's funny? It's actually the body, right? You know, like as Muslims, we have like tawakkul. You know, tawakkul means like believing God, or you know, like just believing, like having faith in God doing something for you or achieving that. And I've always thought, like, it's funny how we have the placebo effect.
And it's real.
It's funny how we have and it's real.
Yeah.
And it's real.
It has real effects.
And in faith, they say you have to have tawakkul. You just have to believe that this thing will happen, and it will happen. And then somehow your body does it.
Yeah, that's super weird, right?
It's super weird. So that's like always, like I've always had this connection between like the placebo effect and tawakkul. I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is a law. Like, you know, I believe like there are certain laws in nature. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I feel like that's also one of those laws. Yeah.
I was actually telling one of our friends, he might be a gnome of the radios.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
So I was telling him about Magick, and he was telling me like, oh, it's all just a placebo. I was like, exactly. That's what Magick is. How do you explain the placebo?
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what you need to explain. Like, why does it work?
Yeah, why does it work?
And this is the thing. Like, you go to a doctor, and you're like, you know, like I feel like shit. You know, I feel really sick. And they're like, you know, I'm looking at this paper, and the paper says you're fine. I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel fine at all. It's like, yeah, but the paper says you're fine. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now what? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like that's it. Like the material, the matter is fine. Yeah. And so you're fine. That's it. But I'm not fine. You know, like they don't take mentality into
consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a huge part. I always feel like your mental state, right? Your mental state, the attack on the mental state. You know, like how TV or something like this, subliminal messaging and all of that stuff, like it kind of plays onto our spiritual part as well, you know? Like when you see certain things or you do certain things and then you feel like you're depressed, you're not really depressed. Like it's just kind of you are under the impression that you're depressed. You get what I mean? And these are all like things that are put in our mind. And I feel like it has a lot to do with also modern society, like giving a diagnosis for everything, you know, like, yeah, you really do have this problem that nobody sees, but you have it, you know, you're crippling depression or whatever, you're not going to get out of it. Here, take some medicine that makes it worse.
Really?
Yeah, really it is that.
Yeah, and it's like anything but saying that life could maybe have meaning, and that, you know, maybe the job of when somebody's depressed, maybe it's not enough to just give them a pill. Maybe we have to like make them feel that their life is meaningful, you know, like we have to bring back meaning into their life and faith. And it doesn't have to be faith in like God, you know, like faith, I think to me is like a natural part of being human, to have faith in yourself, to have faith in your future and humanity. And like faith is what makes us wake up every morning and do what we do, you know?
Yeah.
And in a way that's... Sorry.
No,
just,
go ahead. Sorry.
Just to kind of tie it back to what we're talking about, like magic, right? Because magic, in a way, like when you wake up in the morning and you pray, let's say you pray, right? Even if it's like you say, okay, well, there's no God and God's not really listening to your prayers. All right, fine, whatever, you know? At the very least, you are creating a mentality, a hopeful mentality. And that does something. Like that actually changes the way you live your life. It has an actual empirical effect on your life.
It's a hack into reality, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I always tell my brother, look, obviously I believe it from a religious aspect, right? Because I am religious. But I tell my brother, these rules, they're for anyone. They're coded. They're in this simulation that you're in. You can hack into them. Like we already mentioned a few, like the placebo effect, or waking up, being hopeful, or having high dreams, like reaching impossible goals. You know what I mean? And being consistent on these goals, you'll reach something at least. You know what I mean? Like, and these are all like rules. Right. And like you said, waking up in the morning and doing a prayer, that already gives you the set out for the day. But what do we have today? We have people, they wake up. Yeah. Why should I even work? I mean, I can't buy a house with my salary. I can't buy a car. I can't do anything. Inflation, this and that. They're hopeless. And I understand why they're hopeless, because life is the more, like, if you just look at the economic situation, the wars, all of these things happening around them, I understand why human beings are becoming more and more hopeless. And then it's funny because I was watching an interview with a CEO and he was like, yeah, I can't find people to put to work, because anybody that I want to employ is just like, yeah, they're just doing it because they have to do something and earn some money. But there's no drive. There's no motivation in the people anymore. And that is the problem. You're putting a spell on yourself when you don't motivate. When you don't have motivation to do something, you've already kind of spelled yourself into getting out, because you're not using these laws of nature that are there, that are supposed, that work off your intention or work off your motivation.
Yeah. And it's like, it's all a result of, just to tie it back to like what we're, like the idea of magic, it's all a result of disenchanting the world. Because everything is physical, then mind doesn't really doesn't do anything, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an act. We can't explain it, but you know, whatever the explanation is, it's going to be physical.
Yeah.
We know, even though we don't know yet, but we know. How, I don't know. And so anyways, but once you include the mind, then you realize that the mind is a powerful thing. It has an effect on, obviously we you know, I wake up in the morning, I go to the toilet and I take a piss, right? I'm literally changing the physical world. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even magic. In a sense, it is magic, but it's like, obviously it's a very different form of, like, just your will is making changes on the physical world.
Yeah.
And so once you understand that the will has a place in existence, then it's like, okay, well, how far does the will extend? Is it limited
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
the physical, right? And this is where you come into this idea of magic. This is where that comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you know, like, about, I guess, what would count as magic to you? Like, what do you put in that category?
Well, it depends on the definition, right? So if it's your definition in that sense that, yeah, it has to do more with willing, intention, motivation. For me, yeah, we could say that's a type of like magic, but for me, that's more also like hacking reality. For me, magic has always been like associated more with witchcraft, sorcery, jinns, like that kind of magic.
That's the thing, right? Because like magic has a bad rap from like television shows, yeah, and movies, and also like people have an unrealistic expectation of magic, like because they watch Harry Potter and they think, oh, you're supposed to wave a wand and
Expelliarmus.
Yeah. So I mean, in the modern sense, because like historically speaking, obviously there have been many forms of magic. There's like in India you have these mantras and meditation and all these kind of different ways of controlling prana.
I said blowing knots. That's the one that's said in the Quran as well, like that magicians blow knots over to break up marriages, for example.
Oh yeah. And so reciting mantras, chanting, whatever, meditation to control the energy in your body. You have in China, you have qigong and tai chi, to control the energy in your body. And then you have like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Persians, like offering to the gods and stuff like that. But and obviously it evolved through time. Things that you have divination. I read about divination. We can talk about all that stuff. But where I'm going with this is that in the modern world, obviously there has been a shift
to materialism.
No, but besides materialism, outside of materialism, because there's all these systems that we have inherited, people started to think like, why do all these systems work? Like magicians, right? People who practice magic start to think like, why do all these different systems work? Like, why is it that the Chinese system works and the Greek system works, and they're both completely different systems? And so there's this new idea that arose, kind of inspired by Aleister Crowley, but it actually started somewhere in the 70s, something like that. It's called like chaos magic. And so the idea is that actually what matters is not the system. What matters is your intention. So it's your belief that makes the magic work. So it's the mind, basically. So it doesn't matter what system you adopt. What matters is that you believe it and it will work. And so this is the modern paradigm. Of course, that itself kind of went through its phases, because chaos magic is like, oh, well, if I can just, I can just summon Naruto instead of just summoning Jin. I'll just summon Naruto and he'll do all these things for me, right? But then eventually it's like, okay, well, some systems are better than other systems, Yeah. So anyway, the point of all that, why I said all that, is because this ties into this modern movement of, the secret type stuff, where you just manifest through, repeating positive affirmations every day. So your intention, right? You use your intention to create reality, which is another form of magic, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's funny because, like, for me, I've always said, right, I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast, it's just like these laws that are just there, and intention and is one of those biggest things. And it's funny because you know, in Arabic we have this saying ahem shel niyya.
Yeah.
You know? It's the intention is the most important thing. And even God also, like in the Quran and stuff, he always speaks of how powerful this thing intention is, and how even, for example, the evil eye, right? The evil eye can be accidental magic. It's just because your intent for jealousy, for wanting that, was so bad, you did something in the supernatural realm that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
And you've put an eye on it.
Yeah, it's energy, right? You're putting energy.
It's
out
energy.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's energy. So that's actually crazy. Like, it always ties back. Like the clues are there. The clues are always everywhere, you know. But it's
that's the thing. Like if you enter a room and like everyone's sad, and then you enter a room where everyone's happy, you feel it. Like it's not just something you. Like we don't just experience a lifeless. Like this is the thing. Like this is the weird thing for me, right? Because like we empirically, if we're really going to be empirical, we don't experience this lifeless, valueless. We don't experience any of that. We experience energy. We experience. I feel other people's energy. I feel when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're whatever in pain. I feel their pain. So that's the thing for me, like energy is real. And when I meditate, definitely energy is real. Like I feel it.
Yeah.
And so this idea of like somebody hating you, that
you feel it.
You it will come to you if you're if it's a powerful enough, many people are hating you simultaneously, it will come to you. I feel I believe that, you know.
Yeah, it takes you. But also, I mean, obviously there are obviously also like micro expression. There are also cues that you can see on an individual, but the most part is for me also like energy, like you said, because you know, like immediately you just see somebody like, something's off. You know, like sometimes I see people and I'm like, this is not their true self. Like whatever they're presenting to me, this is not them.
Yeah.
I don't know why. This is like one of those things I keep seeing, like especially here, like when I'm at work or when I meet somebody new and I'm just like, hi, nice, and I'm just like, that was very weird. You know, like I felt like he was wearing a mask the whole time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I feel that sometimes.
Yeah.
Something is off.
Yeah, something's just off. Like, why isn't there a connection? Why aren't our energies connecting? Like, it's maybe that a bit. It's like, you don't feel a connection with this individual, and at the same time, you feel like, it's very surface level. Like, it's not a deep.
Yeah, sometimes energies
somehow
don't mix, and it's very weird stuff. You know, it's really weird how like our physics says that everything is energy, but except mind. Like mind, no, mind. I don't understand. Like why not just extend it further? Like what are the consequences of everything being energy? You know.
They can't, because they can't prove it. They can say, okay, the atom can turn into energy, so it is energy if we derive it in a certain way, whatever. But the mind, what is the mind? They don't even know.
Yeah.
To say it's energy, yeah.
And that's like what Carl Jung says. He's like something, I don't remember the exact quote, but something like, you know, sure, energy is an abstract concept, except every month your electricity company will charge you money for using their energy, you know. So it's like they'll charge you for it, but then they'll tell you it's an abstract concept.
Yeah, abstract concept. But not to confuse. I mean, energy and electricity. I know, you know, that's one thing I wanted to look into. Let me just pull this Oxford meaning of energy, because you know our definition of energy in the way the strength and vitality required for sustained physical or mental activity, Power derived from the utilization of physical or chemical resources, especially to provide light and heat or to work machines. Affect the energy. Okay. So, but they don't have this spiritual energy that we were speaking about. Huh?
Yeah, and that's what Carl Jung says. He's like, why not? Yeah. Why not just say there's also psychic energy?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the big deal?
I mean, there are lots of cases, ESP cases and stuff like that. That's a whole other thing. Do you believe that falls under the category of magic as well, or?
Yeah, I mean,
like remote viewing,
mediumship.
You believe in mediumship?
I think people do summons. I mean, they channel something. I don't know what it is, but actually, you know, like I was reading about this, and it turns out like in the late 1900s. Sorry, late 1900s? No, late 19th century. So 1800s.
Yeah.
So psychologists were basically like, you know, they were like, they wanted to study these mediums, like where are they channeling these entities from? What is this happening? And they're also trying to study all these like automatic writing, all these kind of ways, divination, you know. And Carl Jung was one of them, obviously. And so that's where actually we get the idea of the unconscious. Because like it's like, oh well, where is this entity that's being summoned from? Where are these mediums getting this? Well, it's coming from the unconscious. And so now, of course, we say, oh, unconscious, that's just the brain. But like someone like Carl Jung was adamant. He was like, no, we don't know what the unconscious is. If we knew, it wouldn't be called the unconscious, you know? How can you say it comes from the brain? You don't know where it comes from. Like, you know, how can you prove it comes from the brain? Prove it. How can you even prove that?
It's funny how that term now is actually more like when somebody faints. No, when somebody faints, you say he's unconscious.
Yeah, now they don't use unconscious for that. They use subconscious.
Subconscious, yeah.
But Jung was very adamant. He's like, I don't like the word subconscious because it implies that it's lesser than, you know, subconscious. That's why he uses the word unconscious, because we don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Jung wanted to keep the mystery open, you know.
Yeah.
But now, you know.
I like unconscious more, but it's true. It's like, you know, like the Oracle of Delphi and all those people like that were divining stuff, and it really is like, where did they get our Nostradamus and whatnot? Obviously, they're not like 100% accurate, but that wasn't like the sense of what they were doing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
they were tapping into something, you know. Yeah.
Humans can't be accurate 100% of the time.
Yeah,
they're not
that's
robots. True. And also, like,
robots can't be accurate 100% of the time.
But even like, people don't really think the way the ancients did, which is like, you know, sometimes you're just sitting there and suddenly you have an idea, you know. It's like, where the hell did that come from, you know? And for the ancients, when they had that idea, it's like maybe like a daimon or a genius or whatever. Something came. It's like dreams. When you have a dream and something really powerful, a really powerful dream that sends you some really powerful message, you know. Where did that come from, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I get.
To the ancients, there is a connection, you know, to another realm.
Yeah, I get that. I'm always like, it is, how do you call it? I feel like, you remember when I told you, like, I don't know, a few pods ago, I was talking about how like there's this belief that there's like a higher, just like the realm of things where, you know, objects are like the chair, the perfect chair, you know, the Platonic belief, but there's no perfect chair, but there is the chair in the idea. There's the same realm, like for me, of ideas and of things. And we were talking about that last time, right? Like how some guy in America will give in a patent, and then not even a day, like 2 minutes later, a guy in Australia has the same patent because the idea came into that realm at the same time, and both their minds somehow connected to it, and got and got the idea at the same time.
Yeah. Like I genuinely believe that there's like a like potentiality.
Yeah.
Like potentiality is real. Potential is like literally it exists. And we all have access to this infinite potential. Like all ideas exist potentially, you know.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And there's this guy called Tom Campbell. I don't know if you've heard of him. He has this idea. He calls it the what is it called? The uncertainty. You know, like the uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics.
Yeah, you mean like from Schrodinger's cat and stuff like that?
Yeah, like the idea that you can't know the momentum and the position at the same time. The more you know the momentum, the less you'll know about the position, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, Tom Campbell, has this idea that actually the way magic works is that because reality is probability based, you know, like, because for him, like, reality is kind of like a simulation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's say there's a room where no one is there, nobody's there. It's not rendered, let's say. Mm-hmm. When you walk in, the system will just render whatever is the highest probability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say you have like a stomach pain. Okay. And you go to a doctor and they do an MRI and they're like, okay, you have cancer, you know, God forbid, you know, but let's say you have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that the doctor knows, like the doctor saw the MRI, he consulted another doctor, you saw the MRI, you told your family, so now there's a bunch of people that know. And so there's no probability there, like you have it, it's done.
Yeah.
And so now if you try to do magic, it won't really work because more than one person already knows. Yeah. But when you just have like the stomach ache, right, you haven't gone to the doctor yet, and you do like this energy control, whatever it is, magic, then you can influence the possibilities so that when the doctor checks with MRI, there's a higher probability that you won't have it because it's not set yet, you know? So
it's the same thing, like you said, right? That is like and part of the placebo effect. Because like at the end of the day, you're at home, right? Let's say you're at home. You know, a lot of people, they don't like going to the doctor. I'm also like that. So I'm at home and maybe I'll have some pain in my chest next to my heart or whatever, you know, like it's something important, right? And then you're like, it's nothing. Or you know, like, oh, it's nothing. And I feel like that already is like also like doing something to you, like you said, maybe curing you or something. Like we also have the belief, right? Like I could have had cancer like 17 times and not know about it. You know what I mean? But because of whatever, it didn't happen, you know?
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like people who kind of like have this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They're so worried about it that they eventually just get it.
To get it, yeah.
Of course, this is not to like, you know, I mean, people sometimes it happens just because it happens. It's not always like people causing it on themselves. But I do think that you haven't, like the mind, let's fix that, say, the mind has an effect. And so like and this is the thing, right? Because if you don't believe in the mind, then of course it doesn't have an effect.
Yeah.
And then, well, all you need to feel happy is this pill.
Yeah.
Like life purpose, meaning, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? but that's why I feel like our society is getting like more and more depressed and all of that stuff, because it's like they're getting into like this push for atheism, and there's so many effects, nihilism, all of these stuff are just accepted, you know? It's subconsciously accepted, you know, from the people. They don't know it, but that's what they actually believe at the end of the day. Yeah. And these beliefs have an effect on their mind and on their well-being and their situation. You know, when I left, you know, we used to live in the same country, but when I left, I didn't know what was going to happen. Right? I mean, you remember the whole situation. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then at the end of the day, what did I do? I feel like, obviously with God's help, but I willed like my current situation into into existence. You know, like obviously God willed it, but you get what I mean. My intention,
secondary proximate cause.
Proximate cause, exactly. My intention willed it into being with
Yeah.
God's help. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was like, oh, how am I gonna do this? Oh, how am I gonna? No, I'm just gonna try my best. Whatever happens, I'm just gonna give it my all, and something will happen. And then first year, okay, I'm gonna learn this language. Okay, whatever. People were laughing at me like, oh, why are you learning this language? It's not gonna help you anyway. I was like, yeah, but if I'm gonna work and stuff, I need to sound professional. Okay, whatever. So that was like just steps, you know? Like, oh, okay, yeah. You want to do this? Oh, no, I'm not really interested. Yeah, but look, it's going to end soon. There isn't, you don't have a chance to get into something else. So why don't you just do this for a year? Maybe you'll like it. Okay, no problem. Did an internship. Like, yo, that's not that bad. Like, why was I going away from this? You know what I mean? And then, okay, I've learned so much more. Now I can do the next step, go on to a new job, you get what I mean? And it was all just, obviously, being aware of the worst. I'm not saying like you should live in La La Land. Obviously, that's not the goal, but you need to be aware of the worst so that you can also prepare yourself. But your intention should always be going like for the best of the best. And it will just come.
It will come.
It will come.
Yeah, it's really weird because like things sometimes really do, like you like you sometimes you think of something and then it just happens and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Like literally.
And
it's so scary sometimes, and it just, I don't know, you know, like of course we don't want to like go back to a time where, you know, we're so superstitious, like, oh, you know, like everything is a demon, everything, like, okay, maybe that's too far on one extreme.
Yeah,
but the other extreme is to say that there's nothing, you know, like just atoms, like that's the weird thing, right? Because like nobody actually experiences that. Like we don't experience this world that you say is what's real, you know. That's not what, you know. I think Whitehead has like a really nice argument, I think, in my opinion, where he says, you know, like, okay, so physicalists say, I'm paraphrasing. He says like, okay, so the physicalists or materialists, whatever, they say that we are a part of nature, human beings, right? And so we're continuous with nature. And so if nature is made up of atoms and nature follows these laws of physics, these laws of nature, whatever, then human beings also should be that, you know, like atoms. And that's the physicalist argument. So how can we be different than nature? We have to be continuous with nature. And Whitehead says, yes, I agree with you. You're 100% right. We are continuous with nature. We experience love and hate. We experience meaning and value. And so if we experience these things and we're continuous with nature, that means that nature also contains meaning and value and all of these things. Like the argument goes both ways. You can't have it just one way, you know?
One way. Yeah, it's true.
So, we're continuous with nature. So there's value, there's meaning, there's all of these things.
Yeah, but people don't take that as reality.
And you know, actually, this actually ties in with the definitions that you listed for magic, because there is this sense of mind having an effect. That's one definition of magic, but there's also this enchanting property of life, you know, like that life is magical, that there's more to it than just because things sound, I mean, like how many stories you hear in your lifetime, even our viewers, like that sounds so like impossible. Like I feel like the most impossible things are actually possible. The most impossible things happen. And it sounds like you said, these magical properties of life. Like how many stories, oh, he had his last dime and he did this and somehow the whole thing just changed and he became a billionaire. I don't know what, you know what, or like
stories about like, oh, he was dying in the desert and he was on his last straw and whatever, and then a bird flew, and because the bird flew, people came to the site because they were looking for that bird and they found him. Like, you know, like, no, he was supposed to die, you know what I mean? Or this guy was supposed to end up homeless or whatever. And then it's just like a moonshot. That's the word. It's like a moonshot story that it shouldn't happen, but it happens. And that for me is also like, is that because their intention, their will, his will to live was so high that something happened in his physical, like this, his supernatural will was to live was so high that something in the physical manifested it to save him. Do you understand? Or his will was so high to make it out of that situation where he only had $1 left that boom, it just, everything came, you know? And,
you know, and
that's
this ties into like what you said like last episode, like this obsession with making people primitive and dumb. Like, oh, they were primitive and dumb, that's why. Oh yeah, sure, yeah, they were advanced for their time, but really they're primitive and dumb, you know?
Yeah.
And so why do Indians recite mantras for thousands of years? Well, they were primitive and dumb, you know? As if like today, suddenly human beings became empirical. But 2,000 years ago, no, they weren't empirical. They were primitive and dumb, you know? But it was the same human beings.
Yeah.
So why would they continue to read mantras for thousands of years?
And it's thousands of years. And you know what's funny? It's like, at the end of the day, who taught these people all these things? It came from the Indus Valley exchange with the Greeks, that they learned about these type of things, trying to find meaning by retesting, by, you know, those ways of not, I'm not saying the scientific method straightforward, but like of being technical in stuff. It's not the Europeans that invented it. It's those people that were chanting mantras that you think are dumb, right? Yeah. No, but it is like that. I mean, the Europeans learned a lot of stuff. I'm like no, not just from the Arabs, also from the Indians, from the Chinese. Like, obviously, the Europeans also invented a lot of stuff. Not to say that they're nobody, but you just have to be aware. Like, sometimes I see people and they're like, yeah, the Western civilization with the greatness and all of this, but it's all recycling, man. It's all in the pool of ideas, and it's been in the pool of ideas, and people can just access it. And then I've just noticed some people can really access this pool more and some people less, and I feel like that's maybe intelligence. I'm not sure yet. I feel like that's like one of my theories.
That's the thing, like,
more intelligent people just have more access to that pool of ideas. Yeah.
And that's actually ties into what we were saying in the beginning. It's like, well, I mean, we've been saying this for a few episodes.
Yeah.
But it's like, is there really... Okay, so the West developed technologically, but there is spiritual development also, you know, like there's different types of development, and the East has a more spiritual bent, I guess you could say. Yeah. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because you could say, for example, that, you know, reciting mantras or, you know, like reciting Quran, when somebody's sick, you recite this, you know, this verse or that verse.
Yeah, ruqya. We call it ruqya.
or you give them water that is like, you know, Zamzam water that you read.
Yeah.
You know, like you can say, oh, that's all this superstition, but then
or pray for him.
Yeah.
You know, in any religion, pray for him.
Pray for him, or just meditation in general, just meditative practices. You know, having a sense of belonging to the world, you know, that's all tied into the placebo effect. Like you're literally Western science is taking the placebo effect and saying, see, this is proof that this medicine doesn't really work, when they should be going the other way around and saying, this is proof that sometimes the mind can do things that medicine also does. Yeah, or can't even. Yeah.
Or can't even.
Yeah.
So the placebo effect has sometimes been more successful than the drugs they were testing.
Yeah. And so in that case, it's like, you know, like, in that we need to integrate these two techniques. Like, okay, medicine is good, but also we need mind.
But actually, that, like, for me, that's the ultimate medicine. Actually, if you could find out how the placebo effect works, you have a cure for everything. Like, if you could placebo a human being into curing himself, what do you need again? Like, you get what I mean? Like, you just know, okay, yeah, I just have to play some this and that. He has to do this and that. Okay, I'll just give him some sugar cubes. You think he's good.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know? But he healed himself. And I feel like that, like, imagine the whole pharmaceutical industry is just sugar tablets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that'd just be crazy.
Have you ever heard of Michael Levin?
No. Who is he?
Bro, this guy is crazy. He's insane. He's literally a mad scientist.
No way.
You know what he did?
What did he do?
He discovered this thing. Basically, he sends, like, he calls it bioelectricity. Like, I'm gonna butcher this. Like, you guys, audience, and you also should go watch his videos online.
Look into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, he sends this, like, bioelectricity to the cells, and he tells the cells what to do. Like, using electricity, he communicates with the
Normal
cells.
electricity.
Like, some, I don't know, like, let's say, for example, they go on the computer, they use AI, and they use the AI to figure out, okay, what signal do we need to send them so that they can build an eye? He sends them a signal, they build an eye. Like, the cells in your body, they just go, okay, and they go.
This is working, like, reproducible science.
You can watch him. You can go online. You can watch. He had this worm. It's called a planaria, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He literally, this worm, when you cut it in half, it grows back. You know, like both of them grow.
Yeah.
And so he made a worm. He cut it in half. He sent it, like, the electricity. He told the worm to grow a head on the other side. So the worm grew a head. Now it has two heads.
Mm-hmm.
And then that same worm, now that's it. Like, all his children has two heads.
Yeah.
Like, without
That's
any
great.
DNA. Like, all this idea that everything comes from DNA. This worm, literally no DNA for two heads. Now suddenly it has two heads. He had a frog.
But did the DNA change? Like, did he look at the DNA structure afterwards?
Nothing changed. Just the worm now has two heads, and its children has two heads.
But it's the same, genetically, it's the same worm.
It's the same worm. He has a frog. He made the frog grow an arm. A frog with a missing arm grew an arm. He made it grow an eye inside its stomach.
A frog eye.
Frog eye in the stomach.
Not a human eye.
Yeah, so imagine, like, one day in the future, they just send electricity into your body, and they tell, like, a cancer cell, you know, just stop growing, you know. And the cancer cell's like, all right.
Yeah. But it's actually crazy because, I mean, that is your brain is like, as a biochemistry at the end of the day, like, to control your muscles, it's all electricity to control, like, anything, or the energy that your body consumes, you know, like the carbohydrates that get converted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
that also shows that actually your body is intelligent, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can communicate with it.
Oh yeah. Very intelligent. No, it's these, that's what I'm telling you. Like, you know, people see a phone. That's the thing I said about the iPhone. They say the phone and they say it's designed, but they look at the body and they say, no, there's no design. Like, it doesn't make sense because it's too perfect. It's too like, even the cells, the movement of certain bacteria or certain cells, we're talking about an engine that's 99% efficient. What? We can't even do that today, 2024. We don't have an engine that is 99. No, it's not 100. 99% efficient. We don't have that. But biology somehow, through dumbness and a bunch of accidents over some years, managed to design this. To make it happen.
Yeah, and this is kind of like what's weird about it. It's like, okay, sure. I mean, you can kind of show with, you know, fossils that, okay, this used to be like that and then it became like that. Okay, that's fine. But how do you show that it was all an accident? Like, where in the fossils does it say it's an accident?
Say, oh yeah, by accident. It's, it's written on the bones.
Yeah.
By accident.
By accident. Like, how do you show that? Like, how do you empirically show that it was an accident?
You can't.
Like, that's the weird thing, you know?
No, but even our understanding of DNA is changing. Like it sounds harsh. Like a lot of people, when I speak to them about evolution, and then they're like, yeah, but DNA, and we share 99% with monkeys and bananas, and I'm like, bro, you can share 100%. It doesn't matter. It's the code at the end of the day. Which one is being read, which is not being read, whatever. Like, we don't understand this thing called DNA. We think we know because we see the same genome in two things. How can me and a banana have 99% same genes?
I mean, obviously we're different.
We're different. Obviously we're different. Obviously we have 99. Obviously we still have the same genome. Yeah? But the genome is not what is making us or the banana. There's something else happening as well. Like, it's not just, oh, okay, because there's a match of 99% that me and the banana, we have the same ancestry or something like that. Like, even that, it's debunked. Like, today it's debunked. You cannot base on genetics and say, oh, this correlation is here.
Why does, if all the DNA in the banana and all the DNA in me are pretty much the same, why does my DNA build a human and your DNA and that DNA build a banana, you know? The
banana.
Like, clearly there's intelligence. Even in the tree,
else.
In the human, you know?
Yeah.
In the cells.
Nah, for sure. Yeah, but that's crazy. I have to check him out. What did you say his name was again?
Michael Levin.
Michael Levin. Yeah, that's crazy.
He's crazy. He's a mad scientist, you know. But yeah. So
what did he believe in magic? Did he? Because that sounds like magic, honestly. If anything is magic, it's that. That's
exactly what I'm trying to get at here, right? Because it's like, if we show people what we have, the technologies we have today, 1,000 years ago, they would have said, "Bro, that's magic."
Yeah, of course.
And even if we showed them like Jungian psychology, they would have been like, "That's magic." Yeah. Jungian psychology, that's magic.
For sure.
Like, just because we call it different things now does not change the fact that you know, life is magical.
Yeah, life is magical in that sense. Yeah.
And we are mental, and mind is part of the cause-effect process.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it all boils down to. Like, mind is part of the cause and effect process.
Yeah, obviously. And if you can hack that, maybe that's what he did, huh?
Yeah, you can hack it.
I really want to look into. Yeah, you can hack it, but I really want to look into that guy. And I'm like, I'm just wondering, like, what, like, how? I'm gonna go into a rabbit.
He has a lot of YouTube videos because, like, people love interviewing him, and he's also very active because, like, he wants to get this out there, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy. And has he tried it on humans yet? Did he try it on himself? Like,
they're still like in the process of experimenting with it. But they're trying to figure it out. I guess he has a lab, you know, and I guess one of their biggest goals is what's it called? Like cancer, obviously. He wants, like, cancer is obviously a big thing. They want, like, even limbs, you know, they want to be able to grow limbs eventually. Yeah, but imagine that. Imagine, like, you get in an accident and you cut your arm off, and then you just tell the cells to grow another one.
Can you also rejuvenation?
Yeah.
If you can talk to each cell, that's hard.
Yeah, you might never, like, why is the planaria eternal? Like, it won't die until, like, the earth dies, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why can't we also be planarians?
Be planarians. They're immortal, you know? The immortal jellyfish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird stuff. You know?
It's weird stuff, but it's fringe science, right? And we're talking about fringe shit. So get your shirt.
Like, it's fringe, but he's not. He's like, because he's so good
in the mainstream.
He's mainstream because he's so good. You can't deny him, you know.
Yeah. Because, like, he tells you what it is.
Yeah, like he has the science backing it up. You know, he has, like, look, empirically, I can show you that this works. And you'll find him on TED Talks. You'll find him on, like, he's mainstream at this point.
Okay, no, I'll watch him. No, because I've heard, like, I mean, obviously there are a lot of fringe ideas of physicists, right? Like, have you heard about there's like a room, and you have the three spectrums, right? You have like sound, light, and what was the other one? And energy. And then they tried to like make have you heard about like casting 4-dimensional objects into 3-dimensional realities, like trying to make it's very complicated stuff. But anyways, they use sound, light, and energy to create like this spiral of what a 4-dimensional hyper circle should look like coming into our dimension, and it like creates like weird vortexes and stuff that's supposed to like connect you with other dimensions and stuff like. Have you heard of that before?
No. What do I have to Google to get there?
I don't remember, but I'll send you a link.
Okay,
it has to do with like 4-dimensional shapes and trying to recreate them in 3 dimension.
Damn.
And then
I mean,
some weird.
That's the thing, right? Because it's like, do we have access to other realms? You know, like, are we really limited to the physical, whatever that means? You know, or is there more? You know, and that's the thing. Like, because when you said like you can access this, well, like someone in here and someone all the way over there, we can both have the same idea. It's almost as if we have access to this, like, in Whiteheadian terms, you know, this eternal, or even in Platonic terms, you know, like this eternal realm of forms, you know, like ideas. Yeah.
And I mean, like, to tie it back to our last episode a bit about Atlantis, right? Just want to say, like, they were known for being a spiritual society. They're known for being a society. Nobody had to work. Nobody had to, like, these things that we go through for money and all of this stuff, like, they didn't have that in life. So all that, because they were so living in abundance, like overabundance, all they had was spirituality, and they were looking into that. And obviously we hear about their stories and their greatness and their technologies, and we also hear about they could speak with each other over distances and stuff like that, like from all the reports, right? And how they were spiritual, they weren't technical. They weren't technical because there remains, it's not cables, it's not, we just see like objects, we see stuff. Obviously maybe there is some technical stuff, reproducible stuff, and that brings us into the point that I wanted to get to, mana. Yeah, and its role in magic as well.
Yeah,
or the
energy.
Source energy. Yeah, energy.
Yeah, I mean, some people call it mana nowadays, I guess. Now the modern term is energy, but that's the thing. We're just manipulating energy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And anyone who's meditated knows that it's something you can experience. Like, it's not like, oh, 2,000 years ago they did it, and now we're trying to do what they. No. Close your eyes, focus on your breath, and you will do it. You can do it now. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, we're actually going against empirical findings, you know, like, if you want to say that we can't control energy, you literally have to be unempirical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Literally.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah. But I don't know, like, I feel like, why are we not, like, finding a way to, as human beings, like, finding a way to integrate spirituality back into science? Like, is it that crazy? I don't know. Like, this guy is creating, I wonder, like, what bioenergy he's doing and stuff. Like there are some things that are hard, like physicists, some fringe, like what I was describing about this hyper circle, 4-dimension circle that is in 4 dimensions, trying to like map it in 3 dimensions with those 3 different energies, sound, light, and but like why aren't all scientists like looking into that and saying like, hey, maybe there's some weird spiritual stuff going on? Like let's try and use will in our experiment. Like, let's experiment with will.
Yeah, you know, this is the weird thing. I was actually thinking about this, and there's this weird kind of circular logic happening where it's like, whatever, magic, throw in whatever ancient thing, right? Meditation, magic, astrology. It's not real. That's what they say. Like, it's not real. Well, why isn't it real? Because there's no way it could be real. And then you say, well, who's funding research on these things? Well, nobody. Well, why not? Because it's not real. Well, how do you know it's not real? Because there's no science to prove it. Okay, but who's funding it? Nobody. Well, why not? Because it's not. It's like, okay, you know, like, do you see, like, there's a kind of circular.
There's no research going on because they don't. That's what I was always telling you, right? Like, the philosophy of science, one of their axiom or their beliefs is they don't go to the supernatural.
Yeah.
So for them, it's because of the philosophy of science, they've already thrown it. So that's why the circle appears, because for them the answer is solved. You would say, yeah, because there's no funding, but for them it's because it doesn't exist. We don't need to look into it. Simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like there's literally one university with a like a psychical research. I think it's Virginia. I think we mentioned it in a previous episode. That's literally the only university that has this a department for studying this stuff, and nobody takes it seriously.
Yeah, that still has, because let me tell you this much. At least I know, like, for me, at least psychology, at least now also hearing like about Carl Jung and stuff, like, really kind of more affirmed this thing that I've had in my head, like psychology, because it's any scientist will tell you psychology is not a science.
Yeah.
Right. Although you're learning like science in the university, any scientist will tell you psychology is not a science. And for me, it's no problem. That's why psychology took like this role of like, what is consciousness? Let's just explore. What is feelings? What are all of these things, right? But I feel like psychology wasn't funded because it was like it was the laughing stock of the scientific community. It's like, yeah, look at these guys trying to do stuff that they can't prove.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't, because you can't prove it to who? Because you can't prove it to them. Because in their worldview...
Using their methodology.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, then how do we gain knowledge about psychology? Like, this is the difference between like the ancient approach, which is... For example, the Indians, like, okay, let's meditate. Let's go inwards and see what is this thing called consciousness. What does it want? How does it attain happiness?
Yeah.
Rather than, it's like, how do you explore consciousness? Other than by going inward? Like, you have to experience it. You are an experiencing subject. Yeah. That's how you study your consciousness, your psyche. Okay, so you can't prove it in this materialistic way where like, it has to be observable and everybody has to observe. Like, okay, so what? Like, that's not how this psychology works,
But that's what, and it's sad because before there used to be stuff like that, right? I feel like it was until like the 70s, like, so around 1970, 80, like that's when it really stopped. Like, it was starting to fall already, like end of 1800s when we really got into materialism. But like, if you look into it, right? I mean, Stanford University used to have like some psychic institute, part of the SRI, the Stanford Research Institute. They're the guys that were looking into remote viewing before the CIA came to them and said, hey, cool thing you guys got going here. We have a Cold War. Could you give us some information about Soviet bases? So like, to already see that it was a part, and like the American government believed in ESP. Like, imagine the CIA actually starting a project. And it's a documented project. It's not like, I'm not telling lies. I think it's called Project Stargate Project or something like that. Project Stargate, I think, or something like that. And these guys were getting a bunch of guys, Ingo Swan and I don't remember the other guy's name that used to be a police officer for these remote viewing projects and stuff, and they believed in it because there was Stanford behind it. Stanford believed in it. Stanford was like saying, hey, what is this? This is with 190% accuracy. He's letting us know what is there, like in this remote place, wherever. Like, so somehow there is something happening. Like our universities managed to get a result, but they couldn't tell you why. And sometimes I feel like we don't need to know why.
Yeah.
Maybe like we can look into it, as deep as we can, but it's there. The placebo effect is there. Even if we don't understand it, it's there. Like, let's use it.
Yeah, it's real. The effect is real.
It's real. The effect
we don't know
real,
why,
yeah.
but at least we know it works.
Yeah. So yeah, I find it crazy every time, like just thinking about like, why did this even happen? Because if you think about it, like 70s, 60s, like people were still kind of into like this fringe science, like, hey, let's see what's possible. And today it's just like everything is just so materialistic, so dead. Everybody is dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like people are dead, bro. It's so sad.
It's such a weird shift. And I get the sense of like there's a war happening between two sides. I mean, this is just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
One side is like a very fundamentalist religious side,
mm-hmm.
and the other side is very fundamentalist, atheist, materialist, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the atheist materialist would rather believe in nonsense than allow the possibility of, you know, these things. And the other side also, and this is my personal opinion, I mean, you know, like they would also rather believe in nonsense rather than allow for the possibilities. Just because these two sides are like, they're extremes, you know, most of us are not in these extremes,
mm-hmm.
but they're fighting with each other, and I don't know, I get the sense that they're holding us back somewhat.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
no, I agree.
Yeah, it's like, because I've heard like quotes where like there's materialist philosophers, they're like, you know, okay, yeah, I don't, this doesn't make sense, but I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact quote, but something like, this doesn't make sense, but it's better to believe in this than to allow them any foot in the door, you know, like to allow the supernatural any foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
it's dogmatic. It's dogmatic. It's like a religious fanatic, like how they say to religious people, like, oh, why are you being so dogmatic? They're the same way.
Yeah.
It's their religion. It's their religion. Like they don't, and people don't understand this. Like it's happening to like you said, the religious people as well, because they're living in this society and they're taking these people around them as role models, or like they're not looking into it, they're just seeing science, they're seeing the result of science, this scientism. Like you have religious people that actually believe in scientism, but they act religious because they grew up religious. Like, you get what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it took over like everything, and it's bad. Yeah. And like you said, this war going on, it's there. Everybody, you can see that they're fighting. There's people fighting for spirituality to win, like for us to get back to looking at this stuff like, hey, there is a God. Hey, philosophically, let's look at this. It makes more sense. Hey, you get what I mean? But today, people don't think like philosophically. Like if you ask them, oh, is there a God? They will just tell you no. Like the atheist will tell you no without having the reasons as to why he believes what he believes.
Yeah.
He's just accepted it. Like,
yeah.
And it somehow, this is the biggest psyop I've ever seen in my life. Like, no, really, because like you accept these ideas without reason. And that's a belief. And that is a religion. Because it's faith. You're having faith in the science.
Honestly, like I like for me personally, I have beliefs, I have faith, I have all these things, you know. I have opinions. to me, it's not, what bothers me is not that they have beliefs. It's that they claim that their beliefs are facts.
Yeah.
And we are the ones that have beliefs. When really we're both believing, you know?
Believing. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with like, why do I believe God? Well, I have my philosophical reasons. Why do I think that life is meaningful? I have my philosophical reasons, you know?
Yeah. No, but you know what's even worse? They don't have philosophical reasons.
Yeah.
At least the theist has a philosophical reason for their being.
Yeah.
They can just say, "Oh, you can't prove that there is God in my materialistic paradigm." Not philosophically. In my materialistic paradigm, you can't prove there is God. And in my materialistic paradigm, I can also not prove there is no God.
Yeah.
You know? So they think they won somehow. But okay, if we go to philosophy, we can prove that there should be a God. And you cannot prove that there shouldn't be a God. You know what I mean? But they'll never take it to that step.
It's kind of like, you know, I mean, I guess.
But they believe it.
We're going a lot off topic, but I'll say this thing.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of idea where it's like, where's the evidence that God exists? And it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by evidence, you know? And obviously what they count as evidence is what they define evidence is. So they've defined the word evidence.
Exactly.
They've set the parameters for what counts as evidence. And then they ask you, where's the evidence? And it's like, you know, like you're making me work with your paradigm, which is exactly what I'm questioning.
Exactly. I'm questioning the thing that you're working with.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, but work with it and show me.
Yeah, show me within my paradigm how it's possible. It's like, no, it's not. That's the point.
It's not. It's broken. That's the whole point. It's broken.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it's a belief because it's a jump. It's faith. Because you can't even, at least when you can say something philosophically, the faith is already, there's still faith, but it's already less than not even being able to philosophically give you a reason why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, I would appreciate it more if we just level out the playing field and we all just admit that we're operating on beliefs, and that's fine. Like for me, that's not a bad word. Like it's become a bad word.
Yeah.
To have a philosophical opinion, as if like, what? You have a philosophical opinion? No, it has to be scientific, you know? According to your paradigm, yeah, sure. But that's exactly what I'm questioning, you know?
That's what I'm questioning. And then on top of it, without philosophy, your paradigm wouldn't even exist. So
yeah, exactly.
Calm down.
Yeah.
It's like the son telling the dad, like, hey, you don't know anything. I'm going. That's the analogy I brought last time, right? Like a rebel child leaving the house and just being like two fingers to the background and driving off in the sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it has little to do. I mean, it has to do with magic because at the end of the day,
that side of life is being rejected. You know.
Yeah.
A real side of life that has real empirical effects. You know. But but anyways, I guess we can like leave it there.
Yeah, we went there, and then the next episode we'll talk a bit about the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, let's talk about the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, I do want to talk
in the
about
next episode. So let's talk about the Philosopher's Stone and alchemy a bit more.
Sure.
In detail.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, all those things.
Let us know if you want to hear us talk about any other subjects.
Yeah.
We haven't
and hopefully
upon.
Next episode I'll get to a story which I had. Yeah.
Oh no, you had a story?
No, it's okay. I'll leave it.
Let's do the story.
No, we'll do it next time. It's fine.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Thank you guys, and see you next week.
See you next week.